Arkitekto Sagrado. Woot!
What's up, mga boss peeps? In this episode, I have one question for you, and even for myself, actually. Have you ever wondered why construction in the Philippines is mostly done with concrete? Noong araw naman, combination of wood and concrete, hence the bahay na bato. Well, that and more on this episode of Poste. This episode will come in two parts. First, the history, and second, our socio-economic use of concrete. Konting history muna. Throughout history, gumagamit na ang mga tao ng concrete. Dati it was a combination of anything from mud to lime, to dried grass and straw, and even to animal byproducts. It wasn't until Joseph Aspin invented the world's first modern cement, which he called Portland cement. And throughout the 1800s, or the latter part of the 1800s, sinubukan na ang paggamit ng Portland cement in concrete para sa bridges, streets, and other infrastructure. It wasn't until 1908 nung si paring Thomas Edison nag-develop ng concrete houses na inaasahan niya magiging new standard in construction. 1913 nung nakita ng mundo ang first ready-mix concrete sa Baltimore, Maryland, and created a new revolution in the use of concrete as a building material. So, tapos na yung history. Ngayon naman, let's get down to it. There are two ways to understand kung bakit concrete ang gamit natin. Una, related sa history. Next, related sa environment. Pero bago pa yan, pwede bang hindi concrete ang gamitin? Well, the answer is a resounding, malaking pwede. In the talk of architect Rosette Santos entitled Passing Tabi King Aldo, Ampong Angin, a homage to the sun and the wind, she discusses that amidst the lahar which ate up most of Pampanga in the early 1990s, surprisingly, the simple bahay kubo survived while more modern structures made of concrete, did not. So, to answer that question, yes, in the Philippines, other materials can be used instead of concrete. Matibay din and can withstand all the typhoons and all the earthquakes that we experience year in, year out. So again, bakit nga ba concrete? We'll first have to look at history. There are two books or studies that are vital to understanding this. The New American Houses in the Colonial Philippines and the Rise of Urban Filipino Elite by Kyoko Yamaguchi. And the second, a dissertation by Miss Diana Sandoval Martinez entitled Concrete Colonialism, Architecture, Urbanism, Infrastructure, and the American Colonial Project in the Philippines. Alam nyo, I have read excerpts from these two books, and by reading between the lines, I can safely say that a lot of it had to do with our colonization by the Americans. In the 1800s, Spanish and Filipino elites were all about the bahay na bato, the quintessential structure that is said to be Filipino. When the Americans came, their building practices came with them, but they didn't build for us, but instead, they built for themselves. And when that came, syempre, medyo binuburo nila yung Spanish history natin dito dahil sila na yung bagong colonizers dito sa atin eh. So, goodbye Spanish influence and goodbye yung existing Filipino structures na meron tayo. Anyabang pa nila na pinortray tayo as natives in huts and trees, and their mission was to create a real Filipino tradition. Sinabi pa ni Ralph Harrington Doan's Architectural Review na it was their pride to be the superior master designers of the Philippines. So, doon na pumasok yung sikat na sila Daniel Burnham and his successors to create a master plan for Manila and Bakit, which was part of the City Beautiful movement. The point of it all, pinilit na ng burahin yung Spanish influence natin, to which they succeeded to a certain degree. And eventually, as new American developments were created in the Philippines, and sa kagustuhan nilang burahin yung nakaraan, maraming propaganda ang kumalat na pag modern at concrete ang bahay, mas maganda at mas matibay. Isipin niyo yung story ng Three Little Pigs. Nagulat ako noon na malaki pala yung subliminal influence sa atin, maging sa ibang bansa na colonized or influenced by the Americans. Kung hindi nyo alam yung Three Little Pigs, it's about building the house with straw, then building the house with wood, tapos yung hinuff and puff ng Big Bad Wolf, nagiba yung dalawa, tapos yung third house, nung gumawa sila with brick and mortar, well, matibay na. Around 1950 came the dawn of the new American concrete age. This was, syempre, following, of course, yung success ng Amerikano as well as the Allied forces sa pagpanalo sa World War II. Dito sa Pilipinas, embrace natin ang mga Amerikano and in-embrace din lalo natin yung American culture dahil sila ang so-called liberators natin from the Japanese. So, ang propaganda nun, kung isipin nyo, twice na tayo liberated by the Americans. Kasi parang sinasabi na, of course, well, history will tell us that somewhat liberated din tayo ng Amerikano sa mga Spanish. Kaya sobrang idol natin yung mga Amerikano. Kaya anything American was good to the point that the Philippine National Anthem, and ito, trivia, the Philippine National Anthem was a Spanish poem na tinranslate nila muna sa English before translating it in Tagalog. And the rest, as I say, is history. Government and history aside, naging favorite material na ang concrete and eventually naging standard, pero hindi pa rin maalis sa atin sa ating mga nakakaalam na wood is a doable material along with its substitutes. Kaya nga sa building permits natin, wood and masonry pa rin ang nakalatag. In addition to that, dahil nga yung mga structures sa binubuo ng mga Amerikano is mostly concrete at halos sambay natin ang mga Amerikano ng panahon na yun, syempre, sumunod na rin tayo. Nagsimula yun sa mga elites, and alam naman natin dito sa Pilipinas, punong-puno ng inggit sa mga elites. Kapag sinabi ng elites, astig to, well, sunod naman tayo. Kung ano meron ng mga yayamanin, inaambisyon din ng lahat at sinusunod din ng hindi yayamanin. I-discuss ko further in part 2. Now, for the environmental reason. Kaya rin naman sobrang sikat ang concrete dito sa Pilipinas. At natuklasan natin at ng mga Amerikano na abundant tayo sa mga materials na kailangan para sa Portland cement as well as yung aggregates natin. Yung aggregates natin, makikita mo lang sa ilog. Yun halo mo sa semento. Boom! Konting bato, konting semento. Yeah, monumento. And at the same time, ang labor dito sa atin is generally mas mura compared sa Amerika or compared sa ibang bansa. As much as mas labor-intensive ang paggamit natin ng concrete, well, compensated din naman siya ng murang labor. Dahil sa ibang bansa, kaya mas preferred nila ang steel dahil mas mahal ang labor. So, mas maganda ina-assemble na lang nila dun sa site. Kaya ang pagbuo ng bahay sa Amerika parang puzzle lang or parang Lego lang Lahat doon prefab. And lahat doon i-assemble mo na lang halos. Kaya overall, sa environmental reason and even economic reason, well, siguro mas sound gamitin ang konkreto dito. Pero, it is my opinion na hindi pa rin dahil napaka-labor intensive. Naniniwala ako pwede pa rin gumamit na ibang materials, which I'll discuss also in part 2. So, I hope you enjoyed that bit of information. Sana may natutunan kayo. Ako, alam ko, natuto ako kasi nung ni-research ko, sobrang mind-blown ako. So, yun lamang po. As always, I'm inviting you to follow at Poste Pilipinas on Facebook and subscribe and click that bell icon on YouTube and follow us on Instagram so you can be updated with all the videos that I share with you. And nagpapasalamat ako in advance dahil alam kong isi-share nito para sinasabi nga natin lagi, maraming makaalam. Watch out for part 2 in our next episode. Yun lamang po, Poste Peeps. Paalam.